Hey, how's it going? My name is Ashley Rose. As you know, you can call me Ash. I'm here with a visionary, a man that has been called the chosen one. And of course, he is your former X Division champion, uh, Mustafa Ali. Hi, how are you doing? Nice to meet you.
Hey, hey everybody. Hey Ash, how are you?
This episode is powered by Curse Cosmetics. Use my code A Rose Distortion for 10% off, where horror meets beauty. And also go to Abracadabra NYC, where horror is year round. The year round Halloween store. That's Abracadabra NYC. Same code for 10% off A Rose Distortion.
Good. How are, First of all, how are you doing today? I just want to, get that out in the open. Are we good? How's life?
Doing fantastic. I mean, look at me. I woke up in this beautiful mansion that I live in. I look the way I look. I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. I'm doing good. Thank you though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just coming off of Bound for Glory. I would ask you, what your most memorable memory of this year's Bound for Glory is. But first of all, what can we expect going into the TNA live events in Orlando on November 13th through the 15th? And of course, El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is my state. That's where I
Yeah.
originate from. So
Okay.
what can the fans expect?
Man, there's so much buzz when it comes to TNA right now. We're returning to Full Sail. Well, we're not returning to Full Sail. This is our first time at Full Sail University, but we're returning to our live TNA Impact, first one since Bound for Glory. So there's just this buzz in the locker room with the fans as far as what to expect. It's live. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know what's going to happen. And there's all these rumors about like what's going to happen as far as these network deals and what's going on with TNA. So it's just a very, very exciting time. All I can tell you is to tune in. We're going to be there for 3 days. We have a pay-per-view and another taping in Orlando. So 3 days back to back to back at Orlando. And then we're heading to one of my favorite places to perform, which is El Paso. The last time I was in El Paso, it was against Mike Santana, I believe in February at a TNA pay-per-view called Sacrifice. And that crowd was next level. Just the most rabid, bloodthirsty, volatile crowd, but I loved it. They were just so into it. One of my favorite performances of the year. So if you have the TNA Plus app, please go out and check out TNA Sacrifice, one of the best events of the year. And that crowd was just next level. So yeah, definitely exciting times here at TNA.
Now, if you want to check out the TNA Plus app, of course, if you look on the screen as usual on my channel, or if you're watching on Spotify, we have video now on Spotify, which is crazy. Where the time's gone. There's a QR code. Scan it, keep it. It'll take you directly to the TNA Plus app. And of course, a lot of our other support. And of course, we have the TNA shop there as well. Buy some merchandise, support everyone, support the promotion. Now, being that TNA is going through, I wouldn't say necessarily changes, but it's been slowly building up. We just had the largest crowd recently in quite some time at a live event and a PLE. I want to say pay-per-view because that's how old I am, but they're
It's all the
PLEs.
same. It's all the same. Say whatever you want. Yeah.
uh the TNA locker room, it's always very hungry. Everyone inspires everyone. Going to that atmosphere as coming in and you've been there for quite some time already, how is that inspiring you? How is that pushing you as a performer?
I remember my first visit to TNA, and you would look out at the crowd and you'd see a couple hundred people, and I would think, ah, man, it's just so unfortunate because this roster is just so loaded and these great matches happening, but we only have a couple hundred people here. And now to look out, Slammiversary, Bound for Glory, I look out and I see thousands and thousands and thousands. I see bleachers, but like it is insane, and even leaving the venue, got me, there's traffic jams, like there's just so many people. And it's a cool, cool aspect, especially for me being in a position where like I was lucky enough to come in right before the change had started, right? And then you see guys that have been there for such a long time, like really like seasoned guys like Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers and Moose. You know, I'm happy for them because they stayed, through darker times, right? And they were kind of, captaining the ship, so to speak. And now, they can see this beautiful sea of people. So I'm happy for them as well. TNA as a whole, it just needed momentum. And you kind of mentioned that you can kind of see it throughout the year. I feel like the matches have gotten better, the stories have gotten better, the shows have gotten better, the production has gotten. So who knows what 2026 holds for us? But I do know that I want to take that momentum into the tapings, into the live episodes, into November and December, and just finish off this year with a bang. Like I would say, this year has seen exponential growth for TNA. So we gotta make sure we end it with a bang. As far as like what inspiration I get from that, the inspiration I get is responsibility. Like I want to take responsibility. I want to put the ball in my hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm competing on these November shows. I'm competing on these December shows. So you're gonna see match of the night. You're gonna see the best match you've ever seen when you see Mustafa Ali perform live in a TNA ring. So if that's not worth the price of admission alone, I don't know what is. So come on out.
You're a phenomenal performer. I've seen you in, not to, we're not going to directly talk about like 205 Live, but I'm,
Yeah, no, all good, all good. I know I'm good. Don't worry.
that's why you're here. That's why you
Yeah,
are
no,
where,
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
and you're such an inspiration in the ring and outside the ring. So outside of TNA, outside of pro wrestling, what inspires you? Whether it be art, whether it be music, whether it be your family life, what keeps you?
Yeah, there's a few things. I'm a very boring person, right? Like I don't watch a whole lot of movies. I don't go to a lot of concerts. I don't have a thing outside of wrestling, right? And at the same time, even at home, I don't really watch wrestling because I have kids, and we're watching Bluey and Doc McStuffins or whatever the hell she loves to watch. So I don't really have a thing. Yeah, I don't have a thing that I gravitate towards. However, I've always been interested like on flights and whatnot. I'll download documentaries about leaders like a Malcolm X or a Martin Luther King or like Che Guevara. Like how did these people come to a position of power? And you can kind of see that reflected in my work because I do portray this politician, this leader, this presidential candidate, and I've always been infatuated with how do you communicate to the people? How do you get a message across and then have them believe, whether it's BS or not? How do you convey that? So that's something that's always been interesting to me. As far as like responsibility, I feel like we just live in such trying times right now where it's such us versus them and you versus me. There's no thought of like we, right? Like together. So I always try to make sure that I conduct myself, I present myself, both in business and outside of business, as I want. If anyone was to talk negatively about someone like me, like where I'm from, what I believe in, what someone like that would have a name like mine is, and they would just talk negatively, they would be like, "Yeah, but I know Mustafa Ali, or I had this experience," and that negative connotation doesn't add up. I want to be that guy. I want to be that barrier rather than that affirmation to it. I don't want you to be like, yeah, and then that Ali guy was a piece of crap, and like I heard his people like him are like this. So I always take it upon myself to be like, I mean, I am no role model. I am not trying to be the representative of anybody, but I'm truly trying to be what I want the world to be. So if I want the world to be kind and empathetic and understanding and lenient and then I value being that. So don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times where I'm offended or I'm upset, but I have to take a breath and realize like, well, how does this help that mission that you want? So anytime I'm able to be in a position to do good, I'm gonna do it. That's kind of where I draw my inspiration from right now.
Understandable, or especially with how the world is just in general. Um,
Yeah,
I think the way that you're approaching it in pro wrestling is it's a very positive view and the aspect of how things are going, how it could go, whether it be good or bad based on whatever your storytelling may be at the time.
right, right, right. Yeah,
It's not necessarily like a fully realistic, but it's an educational view for people that are maybe unaware of how
exactly. Yeah, and all within the confines of entertainment.
I mean, that's the best way. I've always said that things like that, whether not to get into politics or anything like that, community is important. And I've always pointed that out, especially with TNA Faithful.
Right.
Communities, we need to support everyone that comes in to be positive because we don't necessarily know what people are going through in their day to day life.
You never know what someone's going through. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. You have no idea what battle someone's fighting. So if you're able to give them that little bit of hope, that smile, or that, that compliment, or just maybe not even say something one day, you don't know how that can impact them. So yeah, you never know what someone's going through.
Now, going back to, transitioning out of the roles that you were in before coming into TNA and then doing this approach that you have been doing. Uh, what's one risk that's paid off and one that didn't that helped shape you? And it's kind of a deep question, but not too deep.
What's one risk that's paid off? Within the confines of TNA or just in life in general?
In general, answer it however you feel.
I'll I'll tell you the biggest risk I ever took that basically put me in the position that I'm in today is uh the Cruiserweight Classic had happened, and again I was an alternate in the Cruiserweight Classic. I wasn't originally in it. I was a backup. Um but someone had backed out, and Lindsay Dorado had recommended me, and I was able to do what I could do. And then in the coming weeks, one by one, all of my peers, all the guys in the Cruiserweight Classic were getting contracts one by one by one by one. And I never got a contract. And this was the second or third time that, Triple H had saw me at competing at Full Sail University. And I just remember this whole thing of like, if it's a no, if they don't want to give me a contract, just find out. Just go get the no. But there's maybe a chance. So I went up to him and very sheepishly was like, hey, sir, like, I see that these guys are getting contracts, and you've seen me enough times. Like when like is there any chance of me getting a contract? And Hunter just kind of gave me the like there's so many dogs. I can only give out so many bones. It's a timing thing. Like keep doing your thing. And so I was like, okay, he's politely telling me like go away. That week, I got a phone call and got my WWE contract. I fully believe, had I not said anything, I think they were just going off that original list, which I wasn't on. You know what I mean? So they were just signing guys. And I think because I said something to Hunter, he was like, oh, wait, like, why you know what I mean? Like, but if I had never said anything, I don't think I'd be talking to you today. I don't think I ever would have made it to WWE and 205 Live and NXT and SmackDown, and pinning the WWE champion Daniel Bryan at the time on the SmackDown, and being in the ring with Roman Reigns, and like all this stuff never would have happened, and I would never transition over to TNA, and I wouldn't be talking to you today, Ash. Who knows? But I fully believe like I saw something. Sometimes we're so afraid of the answer that we won't ask. And my whole thing is the answer is still going to be the answer. If it's a no, it's still like you asking doesn't change it. Just go find out, and then find out what that answers, and then make your adjustments. So I would say that's the biggest risk I've ever taken, and it's paid off. As far as a risk that I've taken that hasn't paid off, I don't think I can actually on it. It's not that I haven't failed. It's just that I took the risk. I tried to, and it didn't work, and I'm happy that I tried it because now I know it doesn't work. So I don't think there's any risk that you take that you look back on and you go, oh, I shouldn't. Like, no, because you get what I'm saying? Like, no matter what, the outcome was going to be the same, whether you take it or not. So I'd much rather find out something isn't a good idea. I'd much rather find out something flopped. I'd much rather, find out how someone truly feels about me rather than go. What if is way worse to me than failure? What if is way worse to me than failure?
It's a question that's always haunted me. What if? The what if? What if I didn't do
It's the
this?
worst, worst. I would like to know exactly what you know what I mean. So I will take failure over what if.
This is what I always tell people. The worst thing that can happen is you can get a no, but just remember one thing, they can't eat you alive. Like they can't physically cut you
Yeah.
up alive. So if it's a
Yeah.
no, no.
It's a no, yeah. Then you pivot, and then I fully believe, in life, what is truly yours, what is destined to be yours is yours. No, nothing can come in between it. You yourself included. But if it's not destined for you, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do or say, and that's not to say not to try. Definitely, put your best foot forward and make your best effort towards it. But at the end of the day, if it's a no, it's for a reason.
I'm a person that believes in divine timing
I
too.
do. I do.
Uh, I know some people think it's ridiculous that I'm that way or I'm too optimistic in that aspect, but I do
Hmm.
believe it because I always tend to look back at moments in my life of things that technically didn't go right, but
Yeah,
it works out for the best at the end, or it just circles back around. That's one thing I have learned.
absolutely.
Now, as far as, the documentaries that you've seen, are you interested in art? I did recently recall at one time that you were interested in art.
So when I was younger, I used to sketch a lot. I had a sketchbook and I would travel on the road with it. I would say I kind of dropped it. Life on the roads is so hectic, and you would think you have all this time, like at airports and whatnot. But I'm a pretty efficient traveler by now. But with traveling, you're just on the phone trying to stay in touch with family and friends, and apologizing for missing this birthday or this wedding. Um, but yeah, I used to sketch a lot, and I think it's something that I'd like to pick up again. But yeah, that's the extent of my artistic ability. But I gotta find the sketchbook. It has some goodies on it. I would even take pictures of it sometimes and post them on some socials. But yeah, I haven't picked up the pen or the pencil, sorry, in quite a while.
No, it's nothing to apologize about. It's a great, I think everyone needs to have a creative outlet, especially when we're incredibly busy, whether that be travel, with work. Life happens. It does.
Right.
So, you know, if you ever want to post it, by all means, I'm sure everyone would enjoy it. Let's go back to our TNA crowd. How is it different than any other crowd that you've experienced? Because, TNA faithful, we tend to, as a community, and I can say, because I've been a part of this wonderful community that's given me so many opportunities for years. Uh, how do they how do they differ? Because even though maybe creatively before, if you would have pitched something, it may have not been right for another promotion, another network, but TNA faithful tends to stand behind their wrestlers. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that pro wrestling in general, you definitely have your fan base that, is loyal and they'll stick with you through everything. I think I don't really have an observation about what's different between, TNA fans and let's say, WWE fans. I will say the difference between TNA and WWE is there's a lot more, I don't want to say leeway, but definitely a lot more creative freedom and artistic expression. I have an idea, I have a concept. I don't really have a script when I go out, and it's definitely something where, we talk to writers and, our producers and we kind of get a gauge of it, but I don't have lines being given to me, which is incredible. I even made the joke when I recently went back to NXT to do the promo standoff with All Ego Ethan Page, and I got a script handed to me. I was like, oh, it's been a minute since I got one of these. You know what I mean? Like a full page document about. And it's just like, people run their shows differently. There's certain levels of, talent that have creative freedom and whatnot. My biggest proponent, one of the things that I love most about TNA is that if I have a question, if I want to make an adjustment, I know who to talk to. And I walk straight up to, Tommy Dreamer's like my guy. And I go to him and I go, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I see it. I think it's shot this way. I need this much time. And he kind of looks up and okay. Or sometimes it's a no, and then that's it, and then I just kind of go up. But other places, there's a whole hierarchy, and there's a system, and you got to talk to this person who talks to this person who talks to. I just go straight to the source. I don't really have much of observation about the different fans. But I can just say company wise, that's the biggest difference, and maybe that's why the TNA faithful are just so in tune with the TNA wrestlers, because maybe they're getting a more authentic version of them. I don't know, just observation. But at the end of the day, man, I hope fans just enjoy the product, they support the product, wherever it is, man. At the end of the day, it's such an amazing time, I feel like, to be a wrestling fan, to engage in like petty tribalism, and this is just so weird to me, honestly. Like, just enjoy your show and talk about your show and cheer on your guys and make signs and buy action figures and go to meet and greets and make cool music videos and all that stuff. Like, that's cool to me. But the pettiness online's, I mean, to each their own, I guess.
I don't really even pay attention to it anymore. I go and I retweet the shows, I post it, and then I'm just like, oh,
Yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need. Let's go.
I'll see you when I see you. Come say hi. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm useful. That's about it. Uh, but I always like to include this question, and I tend to ask it with anyone that I interview, whether it be
Yeah.
music, whether it be film, whether it be TNA talent. Do you have anything that you would like to say to your fans? Anything, words of inspiration that you would like to give them? Any advice? What would you like to tell them? What would you like them to hear?
Yeah. I would tell them right now there's way too much of us versus them. I would like to have a conversation of we, just try to remember at the end of the day, we all come from different parts of this world, but all of these parts are drawn up on a map. Like someone put lines in the sand. There's really nothing that divides us. We all eat, we all breathe, we all sleep, we all require water, we all bleed. We're all going to the same place. We all end up in the dirt. Like, there's really not that much of a difference between you and I. I think one of the coolest things in wrestling, one of the coolest things in TNA is I go to the locker room and I look, and you see such a culturally diverse locker room. You have people from the UK, you have people from China, you have people from Ireland, you have people from Canada, from Mexico. Myself, my dad's from Pakistan, my mom's from India. You have all these like diverse, extremely diverse people from all these different backgrounds. Some people have had the absolute worst life experiences, but they had the biggest smile on their face. And then you see other people that have had everything handed to them in the world, and they're walking around. And you see it all. You see all the differences, right? But it's cool because like wrestling has united them. Wrestling brings them, and it's the same thing when I look out to our fans. We're in Lowell, Mass. We're bound for glory, and I look up and I can just see everyone, and everyone from everywhere. I felt like, and that's one of the beautiful things about pro wrestling. It's almost like, they always talk about how like music brings people together. I feel like wrestling's the same thing, man. Like, you can't wrestling's recognizable wherever you go. That cool was it? I think they're in Uganda, like the mud wrestling like that's so cool. Like, there's wrestling in Uganda. I recently went to, like, this month alone, I went to Australia, I went to Berlin, I'm going to go to Paris later. This month, and I wrestled in Doha, Qatar, and like, you think about all the wildness of that. Like, wrestling's everywhere, and I think there's beauty in that, and that should be celebrated, and we should be celebrated. So at the end of the day, my piece of advice is like, please don't think you and I are different, because we're really not.
It's actually great advice, and I really appreciate your insight. You
Oh,
have
my pleasure.
such a light about you when you speak about community and
Yeah.
uniting. So I really enjoyed that. So thank you again just for speaking on that behalf. I personally
Well,
really
thank you,
appreciate it,
Ash.
and I'm sure a lot of people will as well.
I appreciate you all. Thank you.
And also, general question. We're gonna do the standard two general questions because I always ask the
Uh,
community, "Hey, what do you want to ask?" And it's usually the same question. One of them wants to know
oh no.
favorite match in TNA so far, and
What was my favorite match at TNA? Um,
it's kind of hard to pick. I know.
Yeah, I just have so many to pick from. I think the one that gets brought up the most is the Falls Count Anywhere match against Mike Santana in April at Rebellion. I feel like that story was just so beautifully told. I had ta attacked Mike's past issues with his addiction and made it a focal point as to why he shouldn't be champion and I should be. And just the promos and the matches going into it and that match itself, like I don't feel like taking off my shirt right now, but I have a huge scar that runs through my back from a table bump. Um, and I wear that scar with a lot of pride because man, that match just, was just so violent in a beautiful way. And then the other match that comes to mind was finally being able to defeat Cedric Alexander at Slammiversary. Before that, Cedric had beaten me 6-0. So it was really, really nice to get in the ring with him in front of a huge crowd and, pay dividends not only to 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division, but to our whole heart and soul dynamic. So I really couldn't pick between the two, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to say both right now.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you again for joining me. And once again, if you want to check out any additional matches, anything, please go to TNA Plus. The QR code's on the screen. And once again, thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure and it was an honor to speak with you today.
It was my pleasure, Ash. Thank you very much.